To lead the learning function successfully, managers need different skills than their team members who design and facilitate the training program. Let me share an ice cream model with you that I've developed that identify the 3 essential areas where learning managers need to develop expertise. The first is learning and development. And it might seem a little bit obvious, but if the learning manager comes from the business, they won't have that background in learning and development. So that's the first scoop in my ice cream cone. The second is they need skills to be able to manage projects and programs on an ongoing basis. The third skill area that they need is in business acumen. And it's an ice cream model because business acumen is scalable. So at the top of the ice cream model, we have senior leaders, VPs, and their scope of business acumen that they need is quite broad because of their senior role in the organization. As you move down to director and manager role, and even as an individual contributor, you still need business acumen skills in order to understand the clients, the internal business partners that you're working with, but your scope of understanding is maybe narrower. So that's the ice cream model with the essential skills for learning and development managers. Let's take a look at the learning and development scoop of the model and see how the manager's role differs from the instructional designer's role, their roles on their team. We'll use the 𝗵𝗵𝘁'𝘀 model as a backdrop, and we're going to focus on just the implementation phase in this video. So what is the manager's role during implementation? It depends a little bit on the size and the structure of the organization where you work. So if your organization is smaller and is structured in such a way that your team does the design and the delivery, things might be a little bit smoother. And what your role then is to support the implementation by working with the business, again, still being that liaison, working with the business to identify the target audience for a pilot. I typically include a pilot at the beginning of the implementation phase. Sometimes people include it as part of the design and development. So regardless of where you label it or where you put it, you should have a pilot to test out the full program. And the manager's role is to identify who's going to be in that pilot to make sure that they're representative of the full audience. Attend the pilot and provide some feedback, obviously, and supporting ongoing implementation as needed. If your organization is larger or just is structured differently, you might have your team doing the design work and a different team doing the facilitation and the implementation. In that case, you need to step in and provide a process for that handover to happen. So if it's a facilitated program, you're going to have a train the trainer where your team hands over all the content. The train the trainer is a great time to do that pilot and make sure that you have the right audience in there that's representative of the larger audience group. Attend that pilot and provide feedback. If it's an e-learning program, there's still a handoff. So the pilot then could include user acceptance testing if it hasn't been done already. I know oftentimes I recommend doing that as part of the design and development phase, but you might have a broader audience or more robust testing as a pilot. And then the handoff is going to be handing it over to whoever administers your learning management system to make sure that the course gets uploaded and all the coding and permissions are correct. The other thing that might happen at this phase, depending on the course, is that it might move from a project to a program. So onboarding is a great example. When it's first built out, it would be considered a project and kind of discrete. Then on an ongoing basis, it needs to be maintained. So at that point, it becomes a program and you need to look at your staffing differently so that you can still support that. The deliverables, of course, are the outcome of this is that you have a program that's been piloted and that it's tested and that you can implement out to the larger audience. The instructional designer's role in all of this is to do that heavy lifting, to be part of doing that handover, maybe helping facilitate that pilot and doing the overall user acceptance testing if it's e-learning.